If you're looking for a home mortgage, look no further than Premise Mortgage. The Premise process is simpler, faster, and more convenient than the competition because of their cutting-edge technology. Plus, Premise is an independent company, yet is backed by a bank. Therefore, they can offer all kinds of products for clients with various needs and deliver an awesome customer experience. Premise Mortgage is licensed in 43 states and counting. Contact Richie Love today at 704-607-1497. That's 704-607-1497.
Matt Doherty, the 6'7" sophomore from East Meadow, New York.
Leadership is learned.
A starter on Coach Dean Smith's legendary 1982 Tar Heels National Championship team with Michael Jordan.
Jordan comes down with a rebound. Clears it away to Doherty. Doherty going in against Floyd. For the layup, it's good.
Leadership is earned.
Head coach at the University of North Carolina and the University of Notre Dame.
You notice Matt Doherty, he is up working every second of this ball game.
Leadership is taught.
Public speaker, author, and executive coach.
And leadership does not require a title.
This is the Rebound Podcast with Coach Matt Doherty.
All right, welcome to the Rebound with Matt Doherty. I'm here to share the story of a fellow Tar Heel whose life seemed perfect in the quiet town of Davidson, North Carolina, but was facing significant challenges underneath. Her journey of resilience, marked by a difficult decision to divorce, reflects a courage familiar to us in the world of college basketball. Inspired by her late mother, a hero who battled sobriety, she founded Girls on the Run, transforming her personal struggles into a beacon of hope for young girls. Her outstanding contributions have been recognized by Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama, earning her the Daily Point of Light Award. Join us as we explore the journey of a woman who turned adversity into empowerment, embodying the spirit of the rebound we admire in sports and life. Welcome to the Rebound, Molly Barker. Hey, Molly, I can't believe I'm sitting here with you. It's been about 34 years, I think, since maybe I last saw you.
Right.
We first met when we were both in Davidson. I became an assistant coach for Bob McKillop, who went on to legendary status. And you were married, living in Davidson. And I just remember this cute blonde running the streets. There wasn't much else going on in Davidson at the time. So take us, back to that time. You seemed like you had everything together.
Yeah, I sure played the part pretty well.
Yes, you did.
I was working in the counseling center at Davidson, married to Richard Terry, the head of Residence Life, and was training for my, first, second, or third Ironman. And that's why you'd see me running the streets.
That's right.
It was a full-time job training for that.
I can imagine.
And
So
that's what was going on.
Run one of those things when you can, now Uber?
I know.
Like, why run that far? Why swim that far? Why ride a bike that far?
I look back at what I and this body was able to accomplish. It was pretty spectacular. I can't imagine doing that now, nor wanting to do it now.
Why did you want to do it then?
Well, I just finished a memoir, Matt, and I've really gone deep into that. And I think at the time I was just switching one addiction for another. Mm-hmm. So I had been struggling with some alcohol addiction, and you caught me at a period of what's called white knuckling. Mm-hmm. So I had stopped drinking and just transitioned that addiction to training and performing well in triathlons. So it was sort of a sports addiction.
We've got a lot to unpack here. It's a big duffel bag.
Yeah.
And our community of rebounders, this podcast is all about rebounds, because we all have them, and some are known, some are not known. And so tell me about the recognition, the path you were going down with alcohol, and what was the epiphany when you realized I got a problem?
Yeah. So I had made these sort of, switches. That'd be the alcohol and then the sort of addiction to sports. And then I do want to say that there's a very positive benefit to sports. Obviously, I've created a whole life of that with Girls on the Run. But then things can always be taken to the extreme, right? So once I, did the Ironman, I actually didn't finish it 1 year. And that's when I kind of relapsed into some more alcohol abuse. And I just had an epiphany while out on a run in July of 1993, where I realized that I'd been allowing outside forces to sort of define the essence of who I am. And I just wasn't going to allow that anymore. And one way that I had coped with not feeling good enough was alcohol, addiction. So when I came out of that, I was like, heck no, I'm going to rise up out of this rebound, as you would say, and do something different with my life.
Whew. Wow. All right. We can go a lot of different directions, but we're going forward.
Yeah,
totally. There's just a lot of different paths here and they end up at the same place. But as the community of rebounders are listening to this, they've got questions. And my job is to ask the questions that they're thinking like, hey, dude, you got to ask that question. So what question should I ask right now?
I think a great question to ask would be, what happened? Like, what led up to that moment when that transition was able to happen? Yeah. And I do think, I had tried so many other times to get sober, right? To get over it. And I do think it was sort of this cumulative impact of people who were willing to say something to me about my substance use. I didn't listen to them, and I didn't do anything about it. But cumulatively, people who loved me confronted me about it. And eventually all of those confrontations sort of blossomed during that run one day when I realized, you know what, they're right. I am not living my biggest, boldest, most potentialed self. Does that make sense?
Heck yeah, it makes sense. By the way, one alcoholic to another, because you're never not an alcoholic. It's like the Marines, right? Once a Marine, always a Marine. Right, Once an alcoholic, always. So mine was waking up on a porch in Jersey City in 1987. So I've been sober 35 years. Yeah. And it scared me. And I realized I had a problem. And, I traded the addiction of alcohol. I was an all-city drinker. I was really good. Yeah. I was like, if you're going to do it, do it right.
I get it.
Right?
Yeah.
Totally. I bet you I could out-drunk, drank you back in the day.
Probably.
Yeah.
Just size-wise,
right.
You could probably hold a little bit more.
we could do it proportionally. Like handicap. There's a handicap system, right? In the drinking games. By the way, drink of choice, what was yours?
It was anything that was the strongest available.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's incredible. I was drinking to get drunk.
Yeah,
it wasn't out of pleasure or anything.
No, of course not. No, there was a mission, because that's what you do, right? Yeah. You're goal-oriented and you're focused and you're committed. And mine was beer. And then, then it would be, schnapps was kind of thing that I got turned on to in Chapel Hill, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Never heard of schnapps. Yeah. I'm like, schnapps? What's schnapps? Oh, this can get me drunk quicker.
That's right.
Yeah. So I woke up on a porch at the beach of a house that I wasn't staying in and no cell phones and couldn't find my way back. Yep. And, like guys would laugh back then, like, ha, 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 and that was funny in college. But when you're 26, then it's like, dude, you got a problem. And I went to a counselor and she said, that week, she said, you have the symptoms of a chronic alcoholic. And I'm thinking, you said symptoms, so you're not calling me an alcoholic. So there's an out here. And then I felt dirty. Yeah. And then I went to AA. And then I moved down here a few months later, didn't tell anybody because I didn't want people to think I wasn't had my stuff together.
I totally get that.
Right? I think I wear masks. We all wear masks. I wore 3 masks. I wear 3 masks. I'm a tough guy because I'm from Long Island. I'm a tough guy, right? Athlete. You got to be tough. And then I'm a smart guy. I want to be considered smart. I don't like people thinking I'm stupid. And then I hope I don't offend you, but I got my shit together mask.
Yeah.
So I wear those 3 masks. And what I found is those masks are awfully heavy. And when you start to take them off and be vulnerable, a friend of mine once said, vulnerability is the new invincibility. And you take those off and you realize all of a sudden someone comes up and says, me too, me too, me too. And you're like, really? I thought you had your shit together and you don't? And like, no, I don't. And you know what? Kind of freeing to admit that. So now I can stand up taller because those weights, the weight of the masks just hunched me over. What were the masks that you...
Oh my God. So I'm relating. I've got to first of all say, I appreciate your vulnerability at this moment and transparency. Like it almost makes me want to cry, you know? So,
You're allowed to cry in this podcast.
Yeah. So I remember also having that fear of stating out loud that I, was in recovery for alcoholism, especially when I was starting a program for children. Right. I was 3 years sober when I started Girls on the Run, and I was terrified that people would find out.
Yeah, sure.
So I remember the first time I shared it out loud was not at a speaking engagement. It was at a very small circle of, first adopters, people who were coming on to learn about Girls on the Run. And the response was overwhelmingly beautiful because they were like, wow. Oh my gosh, so you're human too. Right. Like we're all human.
I'm really human.
Yeah, I'm really human. Yes. And I mean, it was like, oh, now I understand why you started that. And like, it wasn't academic. It wasn't just a thought process. It was a feeling process.
Yes, it wasn't like a strategic plan
no,
that you came up with in a business school.
No.
And this is a good opportunity and there's a need out there. It's really more for yourself.
Yeah. And well, at the time, I wouldn't have been able to say that out loud. But I do remember the moment when I was driving down Queens Road when it sort of struck me that, oh my God, 3rd and 4th grade girls is when the trauma was greatest in my own home.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So I grew up in a very dysfunctional alcoholic house.
Really?
Yes.
Now, your dad, Hank, was active in Charlotte, serving as the chairman of the
Republican Party.
Party. And your mom
struggled with addiction until she got sober when I was in 5th grade. So her drinking was worst when I was in 3rd and 4th.
Was your dad drinking too?
No, he was just...
But he knew your mom was drinking, but he kind of probably stayed busy.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to deal with it, I imagine, right?
How did you know that? Yes. It's because men of his generation didn't know what to do with that, right? Yeah.
Didn't want that getting out public, especially in his role with the Republican Party.
That's right.
So just keep it at home, lock the doors.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, my little girl's going to have to deal with this crap every day. Do you have siblings?
Yeah, and they were much older, so they were out of the house.
So you were by yourself.
Yeah, I know.
So what was it like? What was the worst moment you can remember walking in the house after school and your mother passed out on the floor?
Yeah, you're relating. You are saying it out loud. So I think the worst was the sort of, there were a couple, but the worst was her driving me to choir practice. And it was terrifying, first of all, because she was intoxicated and I thought we were going to die, right? I was 8 years old.
8 years old.
And then my coming home from choir practice and walking into the house and her saying, "Are you ready for choir practice?" Because she was in a blackout when she had driven me, right?
She had no idea.
No idea that she'd done it. And that was when it was the first time everyone in the family had to talk about that. My dad is standing there. He brought me in, and it was horrible. It didn't get corrected then, but I do believe that's when my father began to see this is not okay for my little girl to be going through this.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I say this a lot. Your life's impacted by 3 things: the people you meet, the books you read, of which you've written, I think, 4, and you're working on your 5th, and then the trauma in your life. And that trauma, as long as it's not fatal, can be a good thing because that's how you rebound, right? And so because your mother finally hit bottom and your dad stepped in, now hopefully she could be on the road to recovery, but you could be safer.
Yes.
And feel safe.
And I got to witness what it's like on the other side in recovery. So I got to see, I think it's what made my struggles with addiction shorter than hers. So she was 50 when she got sober. I was 32, or 33, 32. And so I knew what resources were out there. I knew what was available.
Right,
I just had to hit my bottom.
You had to hit
in
bottom.
order to get on the other side.
When was the first time you got drunk?
I was 14 years old.
14.
Yeah.
So that was freshman year in high school?
It was actually 10th grade.
10th grade.
I was a young 10th grader. Yeah. At my friend's house before school.
First time you drank?
Yeah.
That's usually what I've learned is, when I was, this counselor said, when did you first drink? I was in 8th grade, so I beat you.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're
won.
Somewhat competitive.
You won.
And she said, the first time you drank, did you get drunk? And I'm like, yeah. She said, well, that's kind of one of the signs, at least back then, like check, okay, all right, potential alcoholic. And then you obviously felt good. You liked it. So you continued on, right?
Yeah, I think more than what I felt good is I felt nothing.
Right.
So nothing I would conflate with feeling good.
Right.
Do you see
It's
what I
numb.
mean?
You're numb.
You're numb.
Right.
So I confused peace of mind with numb.
Right.
Which is not the same thing. Yeah. So the other thing that happened at 14 was I started running with my mom. And that's when I felt peace.
And she was sober at that time.
She was sober. And I could not have made the distinction between peace and numb at that age.
Repeat that. That's powerful right there.
Yeah. I could not distinguish. Yeah. I couldn't make the distinction between peace and numb. They were
right. They were synonymous back then.
Yes. But as I've gotten older now, I can definitely tell the difference.
Yeah.
Peace requires action on my part. Like I have to practice things in order to be at peace, whereas numbness is just escapism.
Wow. Practice. I talk about practice all the time. Like leadership is a practice.
Totally.
Like you can't just read a book or take a seminar and say, I'm a leader. It's practice, like religion's a practice,
Totally.
like running for iron. Is it
Man
iron?
still.
Really? Still man? Are you kidding me? And this is 2024, still Iron Man? Shouldn't it be like Iron Person or
something?
Iron. Like
Iron Human.
Iron Human. We'll start. We'll work on that
We'll
in the next
do it
podcast.
now. Yeah, we'll just
I'll start now.
Yeah,
Iron
we're
Human.
doing it right here.
So you ran the Iron
Human.
Oh gosh. You said earlier, not feeling good enough.
Yeah.
Did that come from the outside, or is that your interpretation?
So I think I've thought about this a lot. Can you tell that I'm an overthinker?
Me too.
Okay.
Me too.
So there's, I
Do you
think
ever
that's
do like the Myers-Briggs or anything?
Oh, yeah.
What are you?
I'm an INFP.
Okay. I'm an ENTJ.
Okay.
But,
but I don't know that thinking okay. So I haven't taken it in a long time. I might have transferred to a T. Who knows?
Yeah. I overthink.
I do.
And it's I've thought about it this morning. Like I'm overthinking. You think about overthinking? Is that like jumbo, like redundant? I'm thinking about overthinking.
I'm thinking about you thinking about overthinking. I'll think about it later.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that this morning. I was thinking about that thing, and the best thing to do when you overthink is to create another distraction. And that happened. We had a staff meeting, and it got my mind off that thing I was thinking about.
Yes.
When I was overthinking.
Yeah.
So it goes back to the kind of the addiction, right? Like you talked about your addiction, and then you poured that into your running. So I went from my drinking in New York City and moved down here and got into coaching at Davidson, which is when we met. And my addiction became coaching basketball and recruiting players. I became really good at recruiting and passionate about recruiting. And I would wake up and recruit, and I would recruit till 10 o'clock at night. And I remember being in a movie theater, back then it was payphones, and had all the top recruits on the back of my business card, their phone numbers. And I went to the payphone while the movie was being played, and I was in a lobby calling a recruit. And some people thought, you're talk about work-life balance, like nowadays, but that was my addiction, but at least I wasn't waking up on a porch, and it was productive. It was useful, and
it's a fine line. It's such a fine line, isn't it? It's an internal mechanism to determine how much is too much and how much is right, and it's
Balance.
a constant work in progress for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I just recently started training, this was about a year ago, for a pretty major bike event, and quickly started losing joy and started thinking about my numbers, heart rate, like wattage and place,
That's why I don't like to compete as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like even golf, like, okay, shoot, if I don't break 100, it's like, that's a bad round. Like, why can't, I remember my mom was pretty competitive, God rest her soul, from the Bronx, best in the Bronx, she would say. She went to play golf with her friends, and she never played golf. She had a set of golf clubs, but like she wouldn't play much, if any. And I said, oh yeah, I played with my friends. I said, well, what did you shoot? That was my first question. What'd you shoot? She says, oh, we didn't keep score. Like, how do you not keep score? I couldn't relate to that. So nowadays, like if somebody like wants to, because my identity is wrapped up in winning, because I've been fortunate to win at a lot of things since my youth, but now like I don't want to lose at anything, so I'm just not going to participate.
I've done that. Yeah. It's kind of a defeatist attitude. It's like, if I can't be in the top, then why bother?
Right. So going back to the joy,
Yeah.
How did you find joy for this bike event you're participating in?
Honestly, I didn't. Yeah, I stopped training for it. It's still, like I said, I'm still a work in progress. I'm still trying to figure that out. I will say that Girls on the Run, when I started that, when I got sober, I sort of rebounded. I love that. Into this joyful approach towards movement, right?
Movement of
running.
Gotcha.
I reclaimed that. And there was something joyful about kids and running with kids. It had a different vibe to it altogether.
There was an innocence about that,
and
right?
they were just excited. Oh my gosh,
just the fact to run.
Yes, just
as opposed
to
like you don't have to make a time.
No. So that was very powerful. And I held on to that until this recent event. And I'm like, what's going on there?
Yeah.
I'm still picking that out.
Well, you talked about work in progress. Have you gone to the Billy Graham Museum?
No.
It's right here in Charlotte, obviously.
Yeah.
It's right near the airport. And you could do it in half a day. And so you go in the gravesite of Billy Graham and his wife, I think it's Ruth, on her tombstone, it said, end of construction, thank you for your patience. Because she saw that sign on a highway one time that, end of the construction zone, thank you for your patience. She put that on her tombstone.
That's brilliant.
We're all under construction until we die.
Yeah.
And then I plan on going to heaven. I don't know, but what about you?
I hope.
You hope?
Hoping.
Yeah, hoping. I call it the big house. I want to get to the big house. And then I'm going to ask God a lot of questions like, what happened when I got fired in 2003 at North Carolina? You might ask, what question would you ask God?
You know what I'd probably say? This shows that I'm still a work in progress. I still do this after speaking engagements. I will do it after this podcast. I will say to you, did I do okay?
Yeah, you're a pleaser.
Yeah, I still got that in me.
Words.
Yeah.
Do you ever read the book, The 5 Love Languages?
Yeah, I'm give me the words.
Me too.
Yeah.
Affirmation.
Yeah.
Me too. And here I am. I'm 6'7", 260 as of this morning. Don't tell anybody. Too many knee cuts. And my love language is words of affirmation. I feel soft because I'm the tough guy mask, right? I've got to be the tough guy. I played basketball, grew up on Long Island, played with Michael Jordan, won the national championship. You can't be soft, but I need words of affirmation. Yeah, I do. So
you know how powerful that is for other men to hear you say that. I mean, you know that. Now, who's conducting this podcast? I'm so sorry.
No.
But you do know that.
Explain that.
I think about my son. I have a son, and he's 28. He is akin to you. He's a very strong, motivated, very good looking, very good looking, funny,
great personality.
Yes, all those
Yeah.
things. And he, as does any human, right? Even our humans need to know that they matter.
Yeah.
I think that tough facade is sort of trained.
Yeah.
In people.
It's kind of sad. The pressures that, where does that come from? Generally, it's probably an insecurity, or like you said, maybe trained like you're supposed to, growing up in New York playing ball, you're supposed to act like a tough guy. And if you showed weakness, you didn't have the respect. And that serves you well till it doesn't.
Right.
Because it didn't serve me well as a basketball coach at North Carolina. And one of the reasons I probably got fired. We're talking about that you were not feeling good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I was going to tell you. Sorry, I digress. Yeah, I think some of that was being a woman, growing up during a time in the late 60s, 70s, and 80s where women were expected to conform to a certain set of societal norms.
Mm-hmm.
As a white female growing up in the South, it was not looked upon kindly or well to express anger. Mm-hmm. So we just stuff it in. Mm-hmm. And allowed all sorts of transgressions against us mm-hmm. because it was terrifying to be ostracized or shamed for speaking up. So I think that's a lot of that not good enoughness was sort of just in the air, mm-hmm. in the ethos mm-hmm. of growing up here. And I think I internalized those. So I began to think they were true.
Because you were an overthinker.
Yeah.
That's how you wired.
Yeah. And there's a term that I've come to understand called internalized oppression.
Internalized oppression.
Yeah. And
explain that.
Yeah, what it means is that there's external forces, depending on which box you check, white, black, mm-hmm. What religion you are. There's external forces that would oppress certain groups based on their box. And what happens when that oppression has been extended generation after generation, those beliefs get internalized mm-hmm. so that a person feels they have them, even though they're not true.
So tell me more about that.
Yeah,
tell
so,
us. Tell
so
the
like
community
my mother,
more, the Rebound community more
yeah,
about
so
that.
like my mother grew up as a female, and it's called a term that I've learned recently is the mother wound. So she was led to believe that her voice did not matter, and it was an external source that said this, because God forbid women, get power and challenge the status quo and challenge things, the way they are. So she believed that she was not good enough. And then whether she did not mean to do this, right. This just sort of gets passed down.
Sure.
And then fortunately now, as we get wiser and more sober and all those things, we start to sort of challenge those. You're challenging them now.
Yeah.
With what you just said about, needing or
affirmation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to say nice things about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Say more.
Oh, and am I good enough? And did I do okay?
Right. Did I do okay?
And it's okay to ask that question. Yeah.
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 Yeah. That the 5 love languages I think are acts of service, quality time, touch, words of affirmation, and I probably missed one.
Gifts, is that
gifts,
one of them?
Gifts, yeah. I like gifts. Yeah, but I like words of affirmation
more.
I do too. Yeah.
I definitely do.
Yeah. Internal oppression. How do you break that cycle?
Internalized oppression.
Internalized.
Yeah. I think, as you and I have done, is you just sort of wake up at some point, like you woke up on the porch.
Yeah.
And I woke up during that run and start to ask ourselves, or I started to ask myself, now where did I get that belief?
Right.
What happened? Was it trauma? Well, yeah, maybe. Was it from some external source? Yes, that too. And then as I began to sort of unravel from those beliefs, I began to see they're not the truth.
Yeah, they're not the truth.
No.
Leadership is a learned behavior, and having someone help guide you through the path to leadership can help you reach your goals quickly and efficiently. I'm Matt Doherty, former head basketball coach at the University of North Carolina. Since my coaching days, I've been working with high-level executives, nonprofit leaders, politicians, and many others who are tasked with making big decisions every day. Now I want to work with you and your team to help you get the most out of your organization. Visit me online at dohertycoaching.com or follow me on Instagram at Coach Matt Doherty. Learn and grow. Through your life, talk about your life's impacted by the people you meet, the books you read, and the trauma in your life. We all need encouragers in our lives, especially you and I that need words of affirmation, like you can do this. And so you were married and you had an issue with drinking. Who were the people that, like you're a competitive person, quitting something, like as a coach? I told my daughter one time, she rode at North Carolina, and she wanted to quit. And she said, well, my dad's a coach and we don't, like Dohertys don't quit, like almost like a, mantra. And I'm like, no, that's not cool. Like, like don't quit after a week, don't quit after the first semester. But like you've given it 3 years. I think it's harder to quit than to stay with something, almost like a battered wife or, so it's actually tougher to quit. So we do need encouragers, people to validate what we're thinking or feeling in our heart. Who were the people in your life that helped you get through that divorce and then helped you stop drinking? Yeah,
my mom for sure. So once my mom, she got involved in a 12-step program, began working at a place in chemical dependency. It was called the Randolph Clinic. It's now called Anuvia. And she was able, I don't know, there's a magic that she and other people were able to do, which was they would speak to the potential of me, not speak to the one that was struggling.
Repeat that now. That's a nugget. Speak to the potential.
Would speak to the potential of me, not to the one that was struggling.
So how does that different than somebody who says, Molly, I can't believe you're drinking. You need to stop. You got a problem.
It's like I'm still another thing that I'm still trying to figure out. But it'd be like, I'll bet you do that with your what do you call them? Your clients, the people you work with. Yeah, it's players. Yeah, it's like you see their potential, and that's who you speak to. You speak that into existence. Right. That's right. Yeah. So she knew I was drinking, and I know that was torture for her because she was struggling. She was sober
too, right?
I'm actually not sure she did. She had done a lot of work on herself to realize that, I had to go through this, I think. Anyway, I don't know though. I wish that would be a question I would ask her. So when I was going through something, she would speak to me as if I was already in the place of recovery. And it eventually got me there, I think.
Well, give me an example of what she would say.
Simple things. What are you going to do about that?
What are you going to do about that?
Yeah, what do you think you need to do about that?
About what?
Whatever the thing was that was causing me upset or, bothering me. Like my finances, for example.
That may have triggered drinking. She's like, what are you going to do about it? Like take care of the problem versus
the drinking.
The drinking.
Yeah, so I was evicted from an apartment.
Were you really?
Yeah. So when I was evicted, How
old were you then?
Oh, gosh, 30.
So this is after...
It was after I knew you, and it was right before the big awakening.
The Run.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the name of the book, by the way.
Yeah,
anyway,
The Run. Oh, my God.
Right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So,
I'll take 10%. But
there you go.
Yeah.
So I was evicted, and she would speak about the eviction as if, like, what are you going to do about that? What are you going to do?
Right.
And then if I didn't have an answer, she wouldn't give me an answer or try to fix the answer. She would just sort of like lay it in my lap.
Right.
It wasn't the same thing as tough love, though. She wasn't shaming. Not that tough love is shaming or condemning.
Right. I understand.
But it was just a sort of, I know you have everything you need to figure this out, Molly. That kind of thing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to rely on the drinking and escaping or... Yeah.
She just kept believing, and not believing. She actually knew that I was capable.
Yeah, of course you were.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course you were.
Yeah.
But you didn't believe that at the time.
Myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is weird because outside looking in, you would say she's got her shit together.
That's right.
But you didn't.
Mm-mm.
How did you get it together and talk about the run? That was July 6th?
Yeah. So that happened, and it took me 2 or 3 years before I could really give it language.
July 6th, 1993.
Yeah. Yeah. So I knew something had changed. I mean, I went to a AA meeting that evening. I'd been to some before, but this was when it really started to stick. I honestly feel like I had a touch with grace. I don't know how else to name that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Touch with Grace.
Yes.
That's another book.
Yes.
We got some books here.
It was like
I love Touch with Grace.
mystery with a capital M, and I don't want to like give it too many words because it will.
Touch with Grace is beautiful.
Yeah. But that just happened, and it was like
on your run. And it was raining, storming, lightning,
big storm, lightning.
Like
and,
God talking to you. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
What was it like the first time you walked into an AA meeting?
Now, the first time I walked in, I was like 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
How,
I
did
knew.
you sneak in, like back door, side door?
No. I had my first blackout, and it had some repercussions related to that.
Why are you laughing? What was the repercussion?
Oh, I was at a friend's mountain house, and it was New Year's Eve, and
sure,
just some horrible things,
Gotcha.
with a boy and stuff like that, And I was terrified. I'd never had a blackout before. Like, what happened?
What happened?
So I was totally game. I would call that my first bottom.
Right.
I had like 8.
8 bottoms?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a little more than a 6-pack.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's the other thing, isn't it true about people with sobriety? We get to a point where we're able to laugh about it.
Of course.
Yeah, Anyway, so I went to an AA meeting, and I immediately was like, oh, I'm not like them.
No, you're not.
No.
But yes, you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and some of them look like me.
Yeah.
Right? You think you'd go in there and they're all degenerates and, but no, you walk in, they're like,
No, but I was looking at the ones that didn't look like me. I mean, I was identifying everything that how I was not like them.
Right.
And so I went once, and then that was that. And then I remember going in this final time, the last bottom, and it was like relief. I mean, the proof was in the pudding. I could not drink, and there was a surrender there that was just so gorgeous.
There was a surrender there that was so gorgeous. What hit you in that meeting that made you realize I need to stop?
I just knew, and that is the piece of sobriety that one of the greatest gifts is this notion of surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Just letting go. No.
God's
trusting the process.
Trusting the process.
Coming in here and just trusting that our words right now will lead us to where we need to go and to whoever's listening.
Yeah. That's really, really cool. All right. Girls on the Run, talk about that, how that got started, what you dreamed about, and how it turned into a massive success to this day.
Oh, I know. It's wild. Yeah. So during that period of the awakening and the 3 years later that I started the program, I began to do a lot of research on what did happen such that I didn't feel good enough. And I began to explore a lot of these oppressive forces, sexism and other things that were happening, and thought, wouldn't it be cool to give little girls a place where they could be themselves and begin to understand what some of those negative messages were, so when they came, they'd be able to resist them and stand up for who they are.
Anticipation.
Yes. So, and in a age-appropriate way,
Mm-hmm.
So pulled together some research, met with a variety of, I had a master's in social work, so was able to call upon some older professors. So I wrote this curriculum based on all of this research stuff. And then I went to Charlotte Country Day, where I was a student and a teacher. And I said, I have this program that I'd like to start. And the after-school coordinator didn't quite understand, because I was speaking about these sort of oppressive forces at the same time that I was talking about joyful movement. But he said, yeah, let's do it. And so 13 kids signed up. And it was amazing. And then those 13 kids told 13 others, and then we had 26, and then it just grew like amazing. Oh,
how did that feel? Like, I'm getting goosebumps because I love these stories. Mm-hmm. Talk about Rebound, right? I mean, this is a heck of a Rebound story. So you decide to launch this program, and they say yes. So you probably, how'd you feel walking out of that meeting? And did you race out of it before they changed their mind?
So have you read my book?
No.
Because you are, it's fantastic. You're asking the right questions.
Thank
no
you.
one has ever asked me that question.
Wow. Thank you.
So the first thing I did was I had my son at the time. I ran, not literally, sped over to my mother's house because she was watching my son. And I walked in and I said, they're going to do it. And she, having seen, everything that I'd been through and what she had been through, I mean, we just couldn't believe, we could believe it actually. But that was the first thing I did.
You turned a negative into a positive. The power, someone that's quote the other day, the power that you have to influence your past self.
Oh.
I butchered it, but you know what I'm talking about.
It.
Like, you are impacting these young girls, which were you. And I, with what I try to do is help people avoid the landmines I stepped on as a leader. Oh, wow. So they sign up. They actually sign up. Like, you build it and they will come. They sign up. And that first meeting with the young girls, what was that like?
That was incredible. The first of all, 3rd and 4th grade kids are some of the most loving, welcoming, accepting human beings. So I show up and they're like already holding my hands and walking out to the track together.
Really?
Yes. And they were like, what's your name? Who are you? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm Molly, and they were all introducing themselves, and we sat in a circle, and I can remember saying, and this is what Girls on the Run is. It's not about running. You can skip, hop, jump, roll, cartwheel, or walk. It's whatever you do in life to move forward.
Whatever you do in life to move forward.
Yeah.
Is that your motto?
No, it's still
cool,
carried out though. I mean, it's still said at all of the Girls on the Run meetings. Yeah.
So where did it go from there?
Yeah, so we did that 12 lessons together, and everyone was changed, including myself. And the parents were overwhelmed with what was happening. There was magic.
How did the girls change, and how did you change?
So I originally envisioned kind of the shy girl, or not the shy, the girl that was like me, sort of closed in. What she would look like afterwards would be to be standing tall and have confidence in herself. And that wasn't every girl that came. There were a lot of girls that already came with confidence, right? They're feeling pretty good. It was about being themselves and however that confidence expressed itself. And so it was like celebrating the essence or the spice of each girl, And by the end, they were all able to articulate what their offering to the world was at that age. That was pretty amazing. I mean, we talked like that.
What year? You probably talked more than you ran.
That was 1996.
So do you stay in touch with any of those girls?
I have. As of this morning, we have an event here in Charlotte, and I've just reached out to about 6 of the original 13.
Really?
Yeah.
The original 13. That sounds like a movie. Sounds like a book. I've got you writing 3 more books.
That's right.
Yeah. What are they doing today?
Oh, my gosh. So, one of them is a physician's assistant. One of them is inherited sort of her parents' job or business. Another one
Does she need an executive coach? I'm sorry.
She could maybe.
Yeah,
Another
we'll
one
talk
is
after the show.
working in sustainability for Nike.
For Nike? Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel?
All that?
Yeah.
I don't think I can fully comprehend the impact the program's had. Just like, you think of the, hundreds, thousands of people you've touched. It's just hard to grasp that, right? And maybe I will at some point. I'm still, kind of just
at peace
touching
or
people day to day,
What's Girls on the Run like now? And I understand you've kind of stepped away from an active leadership role. What is the program like
it's
now?
It's incredible.
How
the
many
leadership.
girls are involved in it?
Yeah, I think this year they served around 110,000. So it's...
Whoa. Repeat that.
Yeah, this 1 year, or I think it's one season. I don't know if it's year or season. 110,000. I know that
Started out with 13.
Yeah. And now it's served over 2.25 million kids.
2.25 million kids. Like, just think of that, Molly.
No.
Right?
I know, it's wild.
Like my mission is to make a positive impact on the people we meet at Doherty Coaching and we work with while dropping breadcrumbs to the Lord. You've done that over 2 million times. Like, there's a special place for you in heaven.
And I will say this, that my direct impact, though, this is something I want to remind people, my direct impact is probably in the hundreds, like the people that I've met over the course of that time.
Are you trying to minimize your
I'm not
impact?
minimizing it, but I am showing the power in that.
Well,
right?
it's compounding.
Yes,
Like you're
it's like
investing
a wake.
your money.
It's like a wake behind a boat. So
Right.
I'm the boat chugging along, and that
Right.
wake, as you get older, just gets wider and wider.
That's right.
Yeah.
So tell us about your books and what's next.
So the past books are the past books, to tell you the truth. I am most excited about this one that I've recently written. So it's a memoir, and it starts with my mom and the relationship we had when I was little before she got sober, and then the relationship we had when she was sober, and then my struggle, and then the relationship we had after we were both sober. And it's really a tribute to her, I guess, but her role in helping create the vision for Girls on the Run. So it's sort of a really deep look at the origin story for the program.
Is your mother still alive?
No.
Is your dad?
Nope.
No.
Mm-mm.
When she passed, I can only imagine that was a
hard.
tremendous void
Loss.
for you.
Big time. She died in 2002, so it's been a while.
Who's filled that void? Like,
Yeah.
Who is on your personal board of directors? Who's your best friend?
Yeah, my sister.
Your sister.
Yeah, Emily, who I'm talking to her this afternoon to report on how this podcast went. Yeah. So, she's just amazing.
And you live back in Charlotte now.
I live here.
You lived in a remote place, Marfa, Texas. Like, I lived in Dallas and never heard of Marfa.
Yeah.
I had to Google it. Why Marfa?
Marfa is known for being this artistic, reclusive sort of place that people go to unravel from society.
Minimalistic kind of
It's
town.
very minimal, yeah. And I went there because I didn't know exactly why, but I could tell you now why I went. I went because I had forgotten sort of who I was before Girls on the Run. I had to get back to the conversation that we're having now. It's like I'm more than Girls on the Run.
Mm-hmm. So was your identity wrapped up in Girls on the Run? You need to get your identity back.
Yeah. It's so easy.
Oh, I get it. My identity was a basketball coach, and I lost that identity, and I was falling off an Empire State Building without a safety net. Now, you chose to step away from Girls on the Run,
I
right?
did. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't choose,
Right.
but so you had so who are you? Who is Molly Barker?
I am a work in progress. I am a ray of light
Ray of Light. I love it. Another book.
I am. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I just am. Yeah. And that varies depending on lots of things, whether I've gotten enough sleep or had my prayer time in the morning or whatever. Yeah.
I don't think you answered the question. When you get to heaven, what are you going to ask God?
Yeah. Well, besides did I do okay?
Did I do okay?
Did
I do okay?
Yeah.
I think you've done okay.
Yeah. I don't think I would have a question. I think I would say thank you.
Now I think I'm the one that's getting, I'm not the tough guy. The tough guy mask is off. I'm really blessed that this is fun.
Totally.
And I love to dive deep. And we dove deep for the Rebound community. You continue to impact people through things like this and the Girls on the Run program and your memoir. And I hope it's not another 34 years before I see you again. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for this.
Leadership is a learned behavior. You're a leader whether you're a parent, a coach, a business owner, or a friend. We all lead in some way, shape, or form. Thanks for listening. I welcome any and all feedback. You can reach me at dohertycoaching.com.